In my state of Massachusetts, there's a place called Freetown-Fall River State Forest. It's also known as the Cursed Forest of Massachusetts. It's one of the most haunted forests in America. There's all sorts of things rumored to happen there. Blood sacrifices, UFOs, ghosts, mysterious orbs, giant snakes, strange disappearances, murders, suicides, and more. While I believe in all that stuff, my friends used to think that all those stories were bullshit. They'd learn that there's a little more truth to the stories than they thought. It was June, and I had just graduated. To celebrate, some friends, my brother, and I decided to go camping. My brother had some issues with violence in the past, but he was doing a lot better, so my friends were okay with him going. Now, it's not, technically speaking, legal for people to go camping in Freetown-Fall River State Forest, but we didn't care. It was close to where we lived, and we had heard the rumors, so we decided to investigate and see whether or not any of it was true. So, we planned out a week-long trip. Even though there were only 6 of us, me, my brother, Seamus, Tilly, Rydell, Jackson, and Travis, we had packed enough beer, snacks, food, and water to feed 10 frat parties. Courtesy of Tilly, who had worked like a modified moving van, we had also had plenty of firewood and ways to start fires. Out of all of us, I think she was the most excited. Anyway, we got there relatively quickly. We decided to get the boring part of setting up done and over with quickly, so we could chill out and have more fun. It was really fun. Travis did magic tricks, we drank a lot, we roasted s'mores, told campfire stories, all the fun stuff. Overall, the first night was awesome, despite nothing weird happening. Until the next morning, when I was forcefully awoken by Travis, who told me that I had to get up now. He didn't answer when I asked what was wrong. As it turns out, there were notes typed out in all the tents. They said, in bold letters, "Get out, and don't ever come back, or else." The group debated over what was going to happen, and eventually we decided to compromise, with those who didn't want to stay, leaving, and the ones who didn't care, staying. In the end, the only ones who stayed were me, Seamus, Tilly, and Rydell. We tried our best to chill out and enjoy the experience, but we felt like someone was watching us. That night, I woke up in the middle of the night, having to pee. So, I got out of the tent, closed it, and went to a nearby tree. When I got back, I fell back asleep quickly. When we saw that there was a new note, it said, "I warned you." I was slightly concerned, and if Seamus was, he didn't show it. Tilly and Rydell, however, were panicking at this point. They wouldn't stop screaming about how we needed to leave. I decided that they were right. Seamus wanted to pack everything up, but we didn't really have time, so he reluctantly walked to the vehicles with us. Or so we thought. However, when we got there, we realized he wasn't with us. "Where's Seamus?" I asked. "The fuck should I know? We've got bigger problems. The tires were Tilly screamed as a man wearing a t-shirt, leather jacket, jeans, and a hockey mask came up behind him and dug an axe into his head. "I don't like people stealing my lines." "The tires were slashed," the man said, sounding like he had a really bad cold. "I'm going to give you to the count of 3 to run. Then, I'm going to come for you. Understand?" We nodded and booked it. We could hear him counting in the distance. Luckily, we had been here frequently, so we knew where we were going. However, We heard him trying to catch up to us, running as fast as he could to catch up with us, or so it seemed. When we got to the edge of the woods, he stopped and just watched us leave, turning around when he couldn't see us anymore. We walked home and called the police, giving them a full report. When they investigated, they concluded that, based on all the evidence, that Seamus was the killer, as he had written a suicide note explaining that he had blacked out again, and that this was for everyone's good. He was found with an axe in his hands, and his head cut off. While our friends were supportive of us, they ended up distancing themselves from me and Tilly after a while. My parents enrolled me into therapy, where I seemed to recover. Tilly, however, committing suicide a year later, with a note saying that she couldn't live without Rydell, and she's joining him. I acted upset and sad at the funeral, but how could I be so upset when the plan went so well? Yes, I planned this, dear listener. You see, Rydell knew I was in love with Tilly and promised that he wouldn't get with her. But all the while, he planned to get with her behind my back. I pretended to forgive him, all the while planning this trip. As for Seamus, he wasn't the killer. The killer was a homeless man I met a few years ago and befriended. I promised him everything we brought with us if he killed Rydell and Seamus. And he did. I ended up an author, writing under several pseudonyms. You've probably read my work at some point. Alas, I'm 97 now, and I can feel my time is running out. So, I'm writing for you, dear reader, my last work, my greatest work, before it's too late. Signed, Jack Santoro.